beautiful evening here in Kuala Lumpur. I'm just chilling by the pool with my girl, Libby. I don't think she can hear. She knows I'm talking about her. And we were chatting earlier about, Libby said that one of the things she likes about me is that I'm not particularly materialistic. Like, I don't have to go and blow my money on frivolous things necessarily, and how she's also like that and needs someone like that in her life. And I just said straight away that the reason I don't is because a lot of this stuff is just an illusion. I'll explain what I mean. So you can go out and buy a pair of shoes for 300 quid, or you can buy one which in objective terms is like exactly the same quality for 50, 30 less, to saying you're in the UK. But one of them has a certain label on it, let's say. Well, what therefore makes it worth that much more money? Just the label? Because the brand, a label, should be representative of some kind of quality, right? So what we do as consumers is we give our trust over to a brand, the authority in that space, to tell us what's good and what's not. And is it any surprise that this power is actually abused largely by a lot of brands who capitalise on the fact that their consumer is perhaps ignorant over quality? Because something is desirable if it has quality. That's the only sort of practical use of it, right? And so a brand, an expensive brand, should represent quality. So I will mention a brand I think does represent quality, functionality that other brands don't deliver, and that's something like Vivo Barefoot. You know, I happily spend £100 on a pair of Vivo Barefoot shoes because I genuinely get that much utility from them. But then take a brand like Nike, you know, and I would say, in my personal opinion, that a lot of their stuff is quite inflated due to the prestige value of it, the fact that everyone wants it. Why would you want something purely because everyone else wants it? That makes no sense. That's irrational. And if it's irrational, it's by definition suboptimal. That is the opposite of living a life true to yourself. Wanting something purely because other people want it means your brain has been hacked, right? So there's a lot of value in understanding exactly what you want from your purchases, what works for you, and paying little to no attention to what everyone else wants. So one example here, I've just moved to Malaysia, and here you can live pretty comfortably, I would say, for the equivalent of about £1,000 a month. Say if you were to spend $1,500 a month, you'd be living like a king here in the capital city of Malaysia. And there's everything to do here that you can do back in London, back in New York, and actually you get a lot more for your money. You know, we are sat by the pool right now, and I've spent hours up here and never had another person even come up here. It's like having your own pool. So why is it so uncommon for people to do this? It's pretty obvious in objective terms, but what all your mates are doing is they're moving into Shoreditch. So, you know, they're moving into Clapham. And guess what's happening to the pricing of rent in Clapham? You spend as much renting one room in a 3-bed house as you can living in Malaysia. And not only that, it's not difficult to make £1,000 a month, £1,500 a month working online. Show me one person who with enough persistence can't do that. And so there you go. The point is, I get a lot of value out of it personally, but that's what works for me. It's not because everyone else is doing it per se that I do it. It's because I genuinely get a lot of value out of it. So takeaway is just notice when this is happening and try not to fall for the illusion of prestige. Prestige pricing, as it's known, is, but more often than not, an abuse of branding, marketing power to extract money out of the naivety of consumers. Because if it's not functional, if it's not practical, then really what is the point? I've massively downsized, I've massively minimised, I've moved house twice in the last couple of years. First time I gave away about 5 sacks of clothes. The second time coming here, I've left, to be fair, quite a few things at my house in Brighton, but I've brought with me 1 suitcase, 1 backpack, and I notice a theme, and that is the more I minimise, the better I feel, the happier I feel. And I actually get a strange kick out of sort of having to turn up wearing almost the same t-shirt every day, or at least variations of the same t-shirt. You know, Mark Zuckerberg style. I've got 5 black t-shirts, 5 white t-shirts, and that's more or less it. A few shirts, you know, and it's actually really liberating. It's really liberating. I can't end this video without mentioning a prime example of where this is at play. So I have a business in the sports supplement niche, and this is where misdirection in marketing is absolutely rife. And in my company, I've actually deliberately, consciously gone down another route, deliberately not tried to pull the wool out of people's eyes, worked with people and the world as it is, with smarter consumers, cleverer people who are taking more and more niche interest, being conscious of what they put in their body. Hey, there's just no room for deception in the sports supplement market anymore, if you ask my opinion, and all the better for it. So you know, in my business, I'm quite like, this is what it is, this is what it does, this is how many you take, these are the kinds of results I got taking it. By all means, try it yourself. Here's what I recommend. Give some advice whilst I'm at it, or should I say tips, not medically qualified. But if you look around, you've got companies like, say, MyProtein and Bulk Powders, who, whether they did this consciously or not, were probably the first to start doing something similar. And before that, you've got people like Maxi Muscle and Optimum Nutrition, who are relying far more on the marketing, the branding, putting some cheap bulk ingredient inside a heavily branded tub with lots of imagery, and it's and they're selling things like maltodextrin, which is a really cheap filler based on cornstarch that is arguably worse for your body than straight sugar because it digests even faster and is even cheaper, and they're marketing it as a mass gainer. Well, guess what? You are going to gain mass, a certain kind of mass, if you take too much of that stuff. It's the reason America is due to go bankrupt by 2035, I think. So that's a really good illustration, I think, of prestige marketing at play. Final takeaway is this: the more you have to rely on creating the illusion of value, the less real value, real world impact you are making. So there's two sides to the coin here. The first being, as a consumer, take it upon yourself to be conscious what you spend your money on to maximize most of it. What's the cost of education? It's not that much, right? The cost of educating yourself and giving up that addiction to prestige is a lot cheaper than actually paying the money for the stuff, believe me. It's a lot easier in our terms, money terms, to say, hey, you know what? I'm not going to have a car, or I'm going to, buy a car that's decent enough, good quality, don't get me wrong, like maybe even like decent like Audi or something. But I'm not going to spend the ridiculous money on, the same thing in a different shell by the same group company that just has a higher value to it. Like, you can buy a Volkswagen Golf for 16,000 and an Audi A3, the same car, for like 20% more. Even the old CEO of Volkswagen Audi Group said it's the same car, it's the same parts, just with a different label on it. That should say it all. In fact, I read about him once, and the journalist who wrote this article said, like, maybe that explains why he's not the CEO anymore. Well, guess what? Maybe he was more forward thinking than you think, right? Maybe he's the kind of guy we need heading up corporate companies, frankly. And the other side of the coin is, if you do want to, I think, succeed in business in the new economy and keep working forward with it, focus on creating real impact, not just for the sake of your consumers, but for your own sake and for its own sake. Because what's more fulfilling, what makes you feel more purposeful than knowing you're out there making a real impact, not having to rely on deception to get the money in, and not having to rationalize over your own actions to make yourself feel like you're doing good when actually you're just playing off people's naivety. Hey, why not go out and educate your customers? You'll be all the more better for it, and so will they. Go and create something rather than take the easy but short-lived route of just capitalizing off ignorance. Hope that was really useful, guys. I should chat to you next time.